your journey, before we get to Thanksgiving, what that has been like, what inspired you, how did you get your breaks, and so on and so forth.
Well, as far as acting goes, I've always wanted to be an actor. Even as a little kid, I think a lot of people daydream about it or that sort of thing, but it never really seemed to be a viable, I don't know, career in Canada when growing up. In fact, I started out in another fantasy world in music. I did that for years, and we did a lot of good stuff, but we were just always on the cusp of doing something really big.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole time I was doing that, I used to say, "Man, I would love to be acting someday if there's the opportunity. Hopefully, I can do something with the music, and then it'll just lead to that." Our drummer, my friend at the time, the drummer, his sister was a pretty well-known big Canadian actor, and I always remember we would be moving her. It seemed like every 8 months she'd be going to a different apartment. A lot of that was down to the fact that she couldn't afford the apartment she was in. So I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think I want to get into acting, but yeah, eventually, just I kind of found my way into it, and I'm so thankful. I love what I do so much. So,
Right. Who inspired you to be an actor? Was it a particular actor or a film that you saw?
I wouldn't know where to begin on that one because I can remember so many times, for example, being in the cinema as a very young kid,
Mm.
um, being just blown away, and then we would come home and we would act out the roles, and that was common. I remember when we were little for my brother and I. So I couldn't pinpoint exactly one, but even if I can think of one guy, I'm remembering seeing a very young Kurt Russell in films when I was a kid in the theater. I remember my aunt and uncle taking me to see something with him. I think that guy is really cool, but
Yeah.
um, so someone like that, maybe I don't know. It's hard to say.
He used to come in a lot of Disney films in the 60s. I remember
Yeah,
one of the films very vividly was called Now You See Him, Now You Don't, where it's about the invisibility formula and how everything kind of goes around him. He accidentally discovers it. But yeah, I mean, I think he was one of the early Disney stars, when Disney used to make some great films in the 60s.
yeah, those were fun. At least from what I remember, I would actually be interested to watch it again. All these years later, just because your tastes change and obviously
Yeah.
films have changed that, but they were fun. I remember.
Yeah, actually some of them I saw it with my kids, Old Yeller, Swiss Family Robinson, Herbie
Yeah,
Goes to Monte Carlo, The Love, and they're actually pretty timeless. I mean, especially Swiss Family
really.
Robinson. I was shocked. I mean, looking at it from a filmmaker standpoint, like the amount of hard work, not that anybody else doesn't, but the fact that it was made on a ship and then an island and shipwrecks and pirates, it was an intense film even for today's time.
So I would actually be interested in finding that then, because I loved that movie when I was a kid.
It should be on Disney Plus. I think we saw it on Disney Plus.
Cool.
Yeah. And what kind of gave you the if you whatever you defined as a break into doing the films that you wanted to do um in the industry?
I don't know if I've got there yet. I mean, every
There's
once in
different
a while,
stages of it, right?
yeah. I mean, you luck out. Certainly, you luck out at times, and Thanksgiving was one of the ones where I lucked out. I remember doing the audition, and I remember seeing the name on it and thinking, this is the biggest waste of time in the world. There's no way that I'm going to get cast in an Eli Roth film, et cetera, et cetera. And it was probably, if I remember correctly, in a rotten mood about wasting a night doing it. Or actually, usually in Canada, we're up till self tapes, we've always have to be off book, which means you have to learn like 6, 8, 12 pages overnight and then shoot it the next day, usually in the room with the casting. Whereas in LA, you show up and you read it. It's kind of a drag, but hopefully now that's changing with some of the new regs and that. But anyways, yeah, I just remember thinking there's no way I can do this, and somehow we pulled it off. But yeah, I mean that's one of the ones where you get lucky, but I still don't feel like anybody's gonna just start throwing offers out at me left and right kind of thing. But sometimes you get to go out for great projects, and hopefully
Yeah.
you get.
And what was the audition like? Was Eli there? Was it a casting director or both of them?
Well, this one was self-tape basically because of COVID.
Okay.
So we
Oh, it
couldn't
was
go
done
to.
in COVID. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's become the industry norm now. And I got to admit, I like it more. That way I can do a couple takes and send the best one I like. And it's funny, usually the best one is the first or second take, anyways.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at least you have that freedom, and you're not going in like your nerves are shot. And also, I don't have to be fully off book. Sometimes I can put some things around, in scene three, it's like I just have a tough spot, so I'll put a little note there that reminds me of what the words are, because it shouldn't be a memory contest; it's an acting contest.
Right. Right. But it's interesting you mentioned that how it's kind of becoming a norm now, and I'm just being a devil's advocate. Zoom, I mean, COVID has changed a lot of things, right, for
Yeah.
everybody. For some better, for some worse. You know, some people want to go to work 3, 4 times a week. Most people don't, and same thing in the acting. Is I would feel, and I mean, you're an actor, you would know more than I would, so I'm just kind of throwing this out there doing it on the phone by yourself, as less nerve-wracking as that is, and it gives you the opportunity to put out the best. In my view, to do it in front of a director, doesn't that sort of give him or her the flavor of who you are and give you sometimes the confidence to put yourself out there?
It depends. Some rooms you go into it's an easier room to work in, and it is
Yeah.
nice to see the director. But a lot of the times on the first casting, the directors are not always there as well. It's almost like casting will put you on tape, and then if you get a recall, then
Yeah. Yeah.
the director will show up for that. And that's
Okay.
always a nail biter as well. I mean, I did one last summer. I remember I read 3 times for that role. And when the director was finally there, this was a big director, and I didn't get the role. I came close apparently, but yeah, that was a stress ball going in there, and it was done on Zoom again because of COVID, right? They don't have
Mm,
actual room anymore, so you're trying to set everything up and make sure you. And my Zoom wasn't working properly, so I couldn't see the person I was reading with. They were like this big on the screen, so yeah, it was interesting. But these are the challenges that we face in the modern day with everything.
yeah. Are you able to share which director it was?
I don't know if I should yet. I should probably
Then
leave
don't
that
worry
one.
about it.
The
No worries.
project that
I'm guessing the film hasn't come out yet, so
that's the
fair enough.
glory of our industry. You can never talk about half the
I
things you
know.
know because yeah, NDAs and that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. No worries. Um, what when you got the part for Thanksgiving, what was the how did you find out? Did Eli call you or like just that day, how did that sort of pan out from surprise to, moving on from there to actually being in the film?
Yeah, it was funny because I was either going in or coming out of a doctor's appointment, and and my agent in Toronto, David, called me. And usually when he calls himself, that usually means something big is happening. And I can't remember what happened, but I came out of the doctor's office. He called me, told me that, and he goes, "Well, I hope you're available on March 14th." And I was like, "Why?" And so he starts explaining to me, and I'm getting all excited. And then I looked at the date, and I looked back, and I looked, and I realized I'm moving that day. So our first day of shooting. So it was interesting. Um, I had to we had some serious work to do to get ready for that. But yeah, we're moving from 13 years in a house on the day. So it was funny.
And
But yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, no, please go ahead. You were not done.
Well, no, and from there it was, it's just the usual thing. You get excited, you start prepping, you start delving into the character, trying to find out more about him. In my case, he was a Marine, a special forces Marine. They're called the Force Recon. And
Mm,
actually, I have some buddies that are ex. Well, they hate to say ex, but they're still Marines. But yeah, like ex Force Marine recon soldiers. And yeah, basically, I started bugging them, trying to get information. Like, what do you guys do like this situation, all these different things, and just trying to build on from there. You want to show up on set ready to hit the ground running, especially with someone like Eli, because I
yeah.
really didn't expect. And he always comes across as intense in a lot of the shows and interviews that I watch. So I thought I'm not messing around here. I want to make sure we get this down.
Right. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not a fan of gore horror. Like I never have been. And it took me a long time to even watch Quentin Tarantino films, and I was like, why did I not watch them? But he's in Glorious Bastards as well, Eli Roth. And I remember watching it was Cabin Fever, one of his first films, which was at DreamWorks. And I think Spielberg read the script and he really loved it. And then he did Hostel, which I've never seen and I don't want to see it. And with Thanksgiving, it kind of just came about, not because it's a bad film, just for me, I just can't take that kind of, gore and stuff. And for Thanksgiving, I didn't even know what it was until I saw posters in the movie theaters and I'm like, okay, it's a Thanksgiving movie. It's a very deceptive name. And then I saw the trailer and I was like, holy crap. And then I got the press screening invitation. And I was debating, should I go? Should I not go? Is it good for the podcast, for the audience, or am I being selfish? And I went, and I kid you not, it, there were obviously, I mean, I'm not going to talk about it. There are certainly a lot of moments which, really get really, really gory. But it had a very interesting feel to it for me. Films like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer from the 90s with, more intense twist to it. And I I enjoyed it. I mean, I wouldn't say, I was crazy about it like a masterpiece like Lawrence of Arabia, but it was entertaining. So just wanted to sort of relay that to you from my standpoint. I mean, most of the times whenever the gore scenes came, I would just kind of look away and, just you can hear all the grinding happening in the background. It's like you can't even close your ears because the movie theater, speakers are so loud. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I've been trying to tell people that I know, ones that are really afraid of scary movies in general or slasher type films. I like everything really, but I get it. It's just not your thing.
Yeah.
But there's something about this that it's more of I like to think it's more like a thrill ride. Yes, it has scares just like an amusement park would, but it's also got funny things, and it's got a lighter feeling. Like
Yeah.
some I love scary movies. So if I walk
I
out of
do too. Yeah.
Hereditary, like
Yeah.
Hereditary to me, like I'm going to be freaked out for 5 days afterwards and feel violent. It's one of my favorite movies. But this movie is a scary movie. I think it's more like a thrill ride where you walk out going, "Holy smokes! Did you see that?" or whatever. Or that was a
Yeah.
funny moment. And you still get your scares, but it's not like you need therapy or something
No, no,
afterwards.
no. But you know what I really loved? The setup of the film leading up to the opening, where it says Thanksgiving. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Mhm.
how it pretty much for me, I don't know, I'm sure you did. For me, it set up the way the world has been for the last 3, 4 years from every facets, like socially, politically, economically, how people behave in situations and how everybody is selfish as hell,
Yeah.
and I thought that was quite for me that when that happened, I was like, okay, I was hooked because that connected with me way more, and it was really well crafted by Eli. Like it just brought in every single aspects of the society from left to right to center to far right to far left.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a deeper vein there that he struck into for sure. Him and Jeff Rendell, the writer as well. Yeah, there's a lot more going on there than just the slasher end of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Your first day at shoot on set. How many days of were you on the set for your part?
I think 18 days or something for me.
And what was the duration of the film production?
Um, Man, it was too short. It
Yeah,
was,
so you were there for
my
most of the
first day
film.
was, I remember, March 14th, and I think I wrapped close to May. So I was in and out between those times. So yeah, it was a quick shoot. There's no doubt about it. And also just bringing that thing from this past March to theaters is insanely quick. I don't know how they managed to do it
Oh, it was March 14th this year.
this year. Think about that.
Whoa.
You know your films, and like thinking about that, it's crazy. we had such, they were sending the dailies to Sony and the dailies got such a good response that they said we want this out this Thanksgiving in the US. So suddenly it was like we got to do this. But yeah, it was fast. It was, and that's the thing I noticed too, that people were so excited to work with Eli, and I'm talking not just the actors, but you could tell on the crew. I talked to a couple of people that dropped other jobs just for the opportunity to work, say, 2 weeks on this show or movie, that could have worked like 2 months on something else just because they wanted to work on an Eli production. So it shows you the goodwill that he has. He's extremely likable person in real life, and you can see he's got the Quentin Tarantino vibe where he's on set. We love making movies, and he does. I think the exact same feel to it because you can tell they're friends, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of his work that I've seen about Cabin Fever and Thanksgiving. There is elements of Tarantino in there. You can see, not that he's trying to imitate it, but just because being a fanboy, it kind of comes across in your work. Um, your first day of production and your first scene, what was it, the first scene, and what was it like working with Eli on the first day of set?
I don't know. Do you actually know about? Did you get somebody give you a hint about my first day and my first scene, or you just asked
No,
that?
nobody did. I'm just literally just asking. I
You want
swear
the
to God,
you want to
I
hear a crazy story?
I would love
Okay.
to.
So the first day of the first scene, super early, get up. I think I got a 5 a.m. call time. I go down, and like anytime, you're nervous. I haven't met Eli yet. We haven't even had a conversation. And the first scene was with Patrick Dempsey. We're leaning up against a car, and it's just a little bit of banter. That's it. And somewhere, because you know how you shoot different angles, you'll do
Yep.
wide and all. Just in case your audience doesn't know, you have like wide shots and then mediums and close-ups, and you'll shoot me, and then they'll turn their cameras around and shoot you and whatever else. So on the first shots, it's me, and suddenly I've started to get a lot of pain. And again, I just met these guys. I'm already nervous, and I'm getting crazy pain down my left arm. I'm having trouble breathing. My neck feels like it's going to fall off. I'm literally like getting afraid here that I'm starting to wonder, am I having a heart attack? So we did a couple passes on me from the wide, and I realized I got to go see the medic. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm having a heart attack, and they're gonna let me go on my first day after all this. Go to see the medic, and as I was talking with him, I realized if I moved my neck a certain way, my chest didn't hurt as much and my back. So, and he did some checks, and right away they figured out, okay, it's not a heart attack, but something's going on here. And from that moment, from the entire shoot up until about a month after, I had the worst pain, no sleep. I was on crazy medications. Somehow, well, there's a degenerate problem in my neck, and I had a couple pinched nerves and a bulging disc, but it happened right on the first, like right there is when it happened. So most of the time you see me, I'm dying in pain. But
I
it's,
gotta see it again now.
I mean, it
Notice.
kind of worked because my character is such a, he's I don't know how to describe it. He's not the happy-go-lucky guy, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah, honestly, from the first scene of filming, and that was the first shot of the movie too. So everybody was, finding their place. Everybody was amazing about it. Once the word got out, like Eli said to me so many times, is you can't tell, don't worry, it's amazing and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of got ratted out because one of the sound techs, you have a microphone on you, and he came up to me after a take and goes, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah." Well, what do you mean? He goes, "Johnny, you're grunting like crazy off camera." And I was like, "Oh man." So but by that point I was fine. It was like, it's just so funny, like you're dying, you think, but at the same time I can't be fired out this movie. I'm having too much fun, it's amazing.
Are you fine now?
Yeah, we're getting there. I'm going to see a surgeon in December. It's kind of an ugly situation up there, but I
Yeah, yeah.
had made muscle atrophy and stuff because the nerves were damaged because I guess they don't send firing signals if the muscles won't grow. So it's been an interesting time, but at least the pain's gone.
Yeah, no,
So yeah,
I
my
know
first pain.
no, I know exactly how you feel. I had a pinched nerve in 2009. It lasted me with me for about 10 years. And I tried everything and nothing worked, and I finally gave into homeopathy. and that just did the cure. So I know exactly how you feel, and it must. But I also wonder if you hadn't gone through that, would you have been more nervous in terms of putting out your character? How would have that sort of transferred out? Not that you would, but I'm just sort of wondering what if, right?
Usually, most sets, there's always that awkward period, at least for me, where you first meet people,
Yeah.
or you have a preconceived idea. Like Eli, right? Like I didn't know what to expect. He's, he looks intense, and I hadn't really watched a lot of interviews, but I'd seen him act, and a lot of those parts were intense. And I did the same thing when I was on Dark Matter. It was a TV show I worked on years back.
Yeah.
When I first met Alex Malari Jr., his character is just this mean SOB. And so when I met him, I was almost intimidated by this guy. And he turns out to be the nicest guy and fun. And we've been great friends ever since. And it's the same with Eli. Eli was so fun and inviting and welcoming. And the more I got to know him, the more I loved working with him and just hanging. Like we talk and text still. And he's a super dude. Really passionate about what he's doing and making stuff, but he's fun too, just so, yeah, it's just funny how I get that vision in my head of people. And then it's like, the heck was I thinking? This guy's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and what you said about being awkward on your first day of set. I mean, even Spielberg has said, I mean, someone like Spielberg, that every first day of the movie that he directs, he's nervous as hell. And I think
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that, kind of kick into you that I don't know these. And most of the artists, that you would know, I know even myself, and I'm sure part of you, we're all introverts, right? And when you're thrown into like this big environment of the set and you have all these people, you're like, how am I gonna deal with this? But yeah, you overcome eventually when you get to know people, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's a strange business in general, and I'm sure even someone like Spielberg might be obsessed with the director of photography he's got for that film. It could be a lot of things. My best friend did one movie in his life. I was a model, but he did one, and it was with Stanley Kubrick. And I remember him telling me how it was literally he got to set, he met Nicole Kidman and that, and then they said, okay, well, we're going to be filming you in this tub, so get naked. And then they go. But I just remember thinking, I would die. You're just meeting all these people, and it's like go in the tub and get naked. So it's a weird business.
Yeah, I think people eventually like, and I think that's one of the reasons that Hollywood is the way it is because everybody, what was his name? Kevin Bacon. He came on a podcast that I saw. He was talking about that one of the things that really bothered him throughout his career, but he finally overcame it, is that you work with all these people for 3, 4 months and you really get to know them, and everybody disappears out of your
Yeah.
life. Like there's zero contact. And that bothered him a lot. And I can see that because you figure sometimes you feel like you've made a connection with someone, but it's just for a limited time. And that's the way the industry is.
Well, one thing I would say that's changed about that to a degree is social media. I have a love and hate affair with social media, but that's actually one of the cool things. I've kept in touch with so many castmates that I've connected with on set, or
Mm,
even got to know a little bit. It's nice to just be able to fire up an email to them and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or have you seen that? And I mean, even today, if I think about it, there's been 3 or 4 conversations with ex castmates, people I just really enjoy, and like there's a lot of people on this set as well. We've all kept in touch. It was great seeing people the other night at the theater. Yeah, it is a little different now, but yeah, when the old days, you would meet these people, and then they're like you said, they're gone. They're off to something else, and I can see why, like, you see a lot of actors and stuff, they get in these romances and stuff when they're on set with people because you are so close and you're in the
yeah.
trailers. That it's like your whole life is in this little box, and then everybody takes off and goes their own ways.
Yeah. No, true. Um, what was one scene that you recall that was probably the most, not that you would take a lot of takes, but it was just challenging to pull off, for whatever reason, whether it was your own character or whether it was the scene that you were in with whoever it was, or whether it was any technical thing. Do you remember any story of that relevance?
In for Thanksgiving, or you mean in
Yeah,
general?
Thanksgiving or general. You can talk about both.
I'm trying to think what I could talk about without giving away things. There's one
Mm.
scene where, how can I say this one? There's a lot going on in the scene, and they were using a steady cam. swirling around. Plus other there's drones and everything. And there's a lot of cars all coming into an intersection at the same time. And they literally, it was incredible. In real life, I'm in the car and I got to get out at a certain time. My driver, these guys are so good. He literally would like so close to the camera. He'd have the rear of the car sliding right into place every time. And then I'd have to get out and all that kind of stuff. And then we would go through the scene. And if I didn't do it, it's back to ones. And that means 20 these cars and cops and the drones and everything, and they got to go back to the ones. And I never thought about it once, but when I think back, my stomach actually hurts because, again, if I didn't do the right thing on each take, and I remember I think we did 3 takes. First 2 were okay, but I remember coming up with something on the third one, and I said to Eli, he goes, "You okay for another one?" I said, "I got something here," and I'm so glad we did it again because they were telling me Russell, who plays Detective Ewan, Russell said the whole base camp or whatever erupted when they got the shot they wanted. So it was amazing. But yeah, when I think back now, it was like, man, what if I did something wrong or got out and my hat goes flying or whatever the heck, something stupid. And it's like, okay, guys, back to ones. And then half an hour later, everybody's backed up in their positions and you start again.
Yeah. No, that, and speaking of Eli, just not talking about the story, but just more so, when he comes to you one-on-one about a scene, how does he try to get you involved into that moment? Like, does he calm you down? Does he kind of talk about something else, or is it just straight to the point?
One thing I would say with Eli is that he lets you do your thing, and then he will comment, and he's very nice. He's an actor. What do they say? He's a
director's actor, or yeah.
One of them. But yeah, because his communication was amazing right out of the gate. I remember there's a scene, actually didn't make it in the movie, unfortunately, but I remember him going and talking to me about it, and he's like, "So when you say this, do you mean this?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, I never thought about it that way. That is actually a really cool way to do it, And I thought, okay, good, I'm on the right track, right? And the other thing I noticed with him is that he really wants you to run with stuff. So he'll say, you don't have to stick to completely to the script. If you feel that you need something here, just do it. If it doesn't work, I'll let you know. And sometimes, sometimes it does work, and other times it's like, it's cool, but I think we should do this as well. But very collaborative, very fun. And the same with like Patrick as well. There were scenes where Patrick would step in, and say, "Jeff, what do you think about this? Why don't you try that?" And I'm totally open to it. And the other thing is that I don't know how many times he would say to me, he's like, "Did you get what you needed?" Like on my turnarounds when it was time to shoot me. I've actually at times over my career have shot to a tennis ball because the lead took off. I mean, as one of the directors was reading, but you got a tennis ball to look at. But Patrick would be like, is everything you got everything you needed out there? Do you want to try something different? I was like, holy smokes, man, I like this guy.
Yeah, Patrick, I remember, I mean, he's come in a lot of movies, but one movie of his that stood out for me when I was growing up, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was called Run,
No.
where he witnesses a murder, or if my memory serves me right, and he just basically runs from these bad guys. In the 90s, there was a lot of movies like that, The Net, Run, Pelican Brief. But I remember him from there, and it was good to see him. It was good to see him in this role, and I think he did a great job in his character, and everybody did. It was just such an interesting elements of society, different types of students, and your character and families and the rich and the poor and it just covered everything in a and then presented in an extreme, manner. And especially, I think, which I won't say, but I know exactly, you'll figure out what I'm going to talk about. The ending where there's a scene where everybody's around the table. I mean, that was too much, way too much for me.
It gets pretty ugly there, yeah.
Yeah. What was the most nasty thing that you saw on the set that kind of threw you off, if you did?
The funniest stuff was it was one of the killings in a restaurant. I guess I could say that. And outside there was There was a lot of props. Let's just put. Again, I'm so afraid of giving anything away, but
No,
I
I
just
get it. I
remember
got the
turning
yeah.
around and laughing and like, look at this. It's just ridiculous. I was like, yep, somebody definitely did not die nicely here.
I don't think you can do any comparisons of any character dying better than the other. I think it just one after the other. And but yeah, like I said, like you said and I said, I don't want to talk about it. I can't give anything away. But it was yeah, and one thing that I find interesting uh, is that for you to be able to come on this film and not having, and please correct me if I'm, have you done anything this major in terms of a big film in terms, being
Oh
distributed by
yeah,
Sony? Okay, so
yeah,
please tell me, and I'm not educated about that, so.
yeah. I mean, I've done lots of features and stuff like that in the past. So, but I mean, they're all the same. They're all nerve wracking at first, and usually you start having a good time, and then it's over, and you're depressed because it's over.
No, but you've done a lot of features, but in terms of the level of this film, like Eli, Sony, and all
Um,
that.
well, I mean, I did Christmas Chronicles, which that's a huge film. That was with Chris Columbus and that as well. So, um, yeah, I mean, I've done stuff like that. I was in the last scene of X-Men: Dark Phoenix a couple years back.
Okay.
That was incredible, and that scene got completely taken out and rewritten and reshot. Completely different ending after, I guess, test runs, which is such a drag because I was setting up the sequel to the next thing. But I was there with
Ah,
all the X-Men, and I had a dialogue with Michael Fassbender, and that was pretty crazy. Actually, I'll never forget that. I remember just being driven to set, thinking that the set alone is probably worth more than some of the productions I've worked on entire budget. You know what I mean?
I bet.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Is Christmas Chronicles directed by Columbus, you said?
He was the executive producer, so he was there all the time. But
Okay,
no,
okay.
Clay Cadis did it. Clay's amazing. Clay's has done a few great films since as well, and he's working on something right now. But yeah, he actually just did the what was it the sequel to Christmas Story that came out last year as well. I
Okay.
think Christmas Story Christmas. Yeah, he's great. I love Clay, and like
I
Chris was
actually
great. So go ahead.
yeah. No, I was gonna say I missed this film. I didn't know about this. I mean, I'm a huge Christopher Columbus fan, and I've talked to Don Burgess, who is the DP on this film, like 6, 7 times on this podcast already. So I must have overlooked it. I'm not looking forward to seeing it because I mean it's obviously Christmas coming up too.
It's a great film, and I'm so proud to be part of that one. I play, I guess you could say, probably the main heavy bad guy in it, but so many good memories because I was excited to work with Christopher Columbus because I didn't know when I first got the role that he was involved. So again, it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm nervous, but he turned out to be really easygoing and cool. Again, open to all kinds of suggestions and things like that. And yeah, that's big because it's become kind of an instant Christmas classic. Like every year I get stuff sent to me on Instagram all the time. Here's my living room and there's the Christmas Chronicles in the background.
Oh,
It's really,
cool.
yeah. Honestly, I tell my daughter this every year, and she rolls her eyes now because it's every year. We'll watch like It's a Wonderful Life, and I'll point
Hmm.
out that the bad guy in that is he was born in 1885, and we're still watching him every year. It doesn't get old. And I said, imagine if this thing even lasts 20 years. I'd be so honored to be in people's living rooms.
Yeah.
So I got a Christmas movie and now I have a Thanksgiving movie. So keep
Quite
rolling.
opposite of typical Thanksgiving movie, but
Yeah.
but it's so true. I mean, the way you put that with It's a Wonderful Life, that it's been over 100 and what, 40 years that we're still watching the movie of the guy that was born in 1885.
Yeah.
And I think that's at the end of the day, as a creative person, filmmaker, editor, cinematographer, actor, actress, whatever it is, it's sometimes it's more about what you leave behind, and I think that defines how it does impact people's life. I was talking to, have you ever seen the, are you into animation?
Some of it. Yeah. I,
There was
I
a
work.
movie that, sorry, go on.
Oh, I work in some of animation too. So
Okay, so there was a movie that came out in 2002, Spirit Stallion of Cimarron by DreamWorks Animation. It was like one of the last traditional animation films, and it was directed by two individuals, Kelly Asbury, who passed away, and Lorna Cook. And I've spoken to her, and then I met her for lunch, and we were talking about how films affect people, right? And she told me a kid came up to him who was 20 or 19 years old. So he was probably born around the time when the film came out. And how he said to her that because I watched your film at the age of 15, it prevented me from suicide.
Really?
I mean,
That
that's
was
the
quite the thing to hear.
effect, right? Like if for creative peoples like us to hear something like that versus like, box office glory or Oscar nomination, which is great, but to have that kind of an impact on someone's life that you don't even know is quite something. And I'm sure you have had the same, you've done something to some people, I'm sure, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you hope you have. I don't know. I mean, I get a lot of nice comments and stuff that I'm part of something, but I mean, I'm part of a bigger picture doing film and TV. It's not me. It's the whole package, you know.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. But at the end of the day, I
Yeah,
mean, you're
cut you
working
off.
hard, right? So I said at the end of the day, you're working hard, and you should pat yourself on the back sometimes.
Yeah, it's nice
I
though. I
know.
mean, when you do hear
Yeah.
stuff, I did a Comic-Con in South Africa, and it was really humbling. People coming up, you know, you're on a completely different continent and as far away from Canada as you can imagine in everything, every aspect, and yet these people are coming up and they're crying because they're meeting you, and I just it doesn't comprehend. You know, I find it really weird, but I guess like one of them said, he says, "No, you did this thing. I love this thing. You know, this makes me happy. Thank you so much for meeting me." And I'm thinking, it's just me, but I'm so glad I was able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, and I'm sure, like, yeah, you for sure have impacted people's lives, and I think with now I'm interested to see Christmas Chronicles, and I would love to chat with you about it in the future if you have time and if you'd be
Yeah,
interested with it.
sure.
Because with Christmas coming up, I think it's perfect timing too. Anything that you want to talk, you can talk about in terms of what's coming up next that's been made official?
Yeah, that's the problem is the ones I'm thinking of there. I've got an NDA on them. I'm really
Uh,
excited. There's most of them are video games right now,
mm-hmm.
but really, really, really cool things coming up. I mean, I don't know if you cover gaming or your audience watches it, but I've been lucky enough to play in a lot of stuff. And it's cool. The thing about video games that a lot of people don't realize is that, yeah, there's the voice aspect of it, but nowadays it's literally these amazing cinematics in between.
Mm,
So they call them cut scenes, for example, and you will act those just as if you would act any movie, television show. You basically wear the mocap, the performance cap
mm-hmm.
suit, dots on your face, and you have the helmet that's capturing everything. But there's some incredible performances going on by A-list actors and everybody else on those things now. So the cutscenes have really elevated. And so yeah, I've got some stuff coming up on that, and I just wish I could tell you. One is a major franchise, and the other one, well, two of them are, and then the other one is something else. But
No
again,
worries.
they'll
No,
take my kids.
no, I get it, but that's great that you're getting such opportunities. And I think the way the world is evolving with AI and the video games and cinema, there's always this discussion, is video game, I mean, Netflix is kind of exploring that, is film, our films and video games are somehow gonna merge into one in the future with, virtual reality and augmented reality.
I can see that. I mean, Eli even just did some big budget virtual reality interactive movie for Meta Facebook. We were talking about that when we were shooting. So I don't know if that's out yet, but yeah, I mean, they're spending big bucks doing these things, so it's
Yeah,
coming. It's
for sure.
definitely coming. I was gonna say too, if you guys want, I can release some information shortly, but I'll do it on my Instagram when I'm allowed to. But that's where I usually put this stuff out.
Sure.
When I'm allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. No, it's fair enough. No, this has been great, man. I really appreciate your time, and really, again, I wish we could talk about Thanksgiving in detail because there's so many things I do want to talk about because of the intensity of violence that was in the film, and just to kind of get it out of my system. But at the end of the day, it was entertaining film, and I'm not gonna say anything more than that. But there were some interesting things that happened from the beginning to the end. That yeah, so I was quite taken by that.
I'm honestly, I'm glad to hear that, because again, I'm taking 15 relatives and close friends to the theater tonight, and
Oh
oh yeah, three of them are absolutely terrified of scary movies. And I keep telling them, I said, like, if you get really freaked out, just look at me and you'll know that, it's me and whatever, right? But yeah, I mean, again, to me, there are terrifying, scary movies, but they have a tone like The Exorcist or the
yeah,
series
yeah.
all the way through. This one has a lot of light moments. It's fun and that sort of thing. So it's a good balance for someone but I think, yeah, you'll still give the slasher people their stuff,
I
which
mean,
again, it's not really mine either, right? It's like I like more the ghost type kind of thing, but I appreciate good slashers. I grew up with them. So yeah, I think you get a bit of everything, but it's not too intense that again you walk out of the theater like, what did I just see? It's like you've gone to Vietnam or something.
the problem is that people might be able to cover their faces, as in your friends, but the sound is there, and that's way more effective than the visuals would be, because you can watch something visually and there's no sound. It's not that powerful. It's very rare, like a violent scene will impact you, but that sound really
Yeah,
gets to you.
it's true.
And
Actually, they did a good job on the sound. I can hear it. Yeah.
yeah, and I'll tell you, when I saw the press screening, I think there was like about, how many of us were there? I would like to say 30 of us. And there were like a couple of guys who kept laughing at every terribly violent scene, because that's the way they were letting it out of their system. Everybody deals with it differently. And I thought it was hilarious. They were laughing and I'm just like looking away, and everybody dealing with the violent differently. But I wish you all the best with the family and friends screening. I think it would be you should actually film them watching it, and then you can use
Um,
that against them at some point.
cool. Well, thank you
Wonderful.
very much.
Thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it. Looking forward to more of your work, and wishing you nothing but success, and talk soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment, and do come back for another episode. Until then, have a great day.